This piece here is called a wedger or a partitioner. This brand happens to be Carlisle, or Redco makes them. But what it's designed to do is cut fruit and vegetables in portions where you don't have to do it with a knife by hand. It has two components to it. This part is the blade. This particular blade package or cup wedges things into 6. If you use 125 count apples, and do you know what that means, 125? It means that's how many apples are in a 40-pound case. And they're about this size. You can also use 113s, which are a little bigger, but don't go beyond that because the diameter of the cup will not accommodate that. We portioned all of our fruit and vegetables and sent to the schools in big tubs. We fed 750 people approximately each day, and so to cut that much takes a little bit. But our method of operation was, you have an estimated count. The day before you bring out your fruit, wash it, put it in tubs, okay, Highland Park gets this many, Garfield gets this many. The next morning, our kitchen assistant would then cut up the fruit, put it back, she'd weigh it whole, put it back in the tub. With things like apples and pears, we used a fruit freshener it's to prevent browning. And so once they're wedged, they would go into a bath for like 30 seconds, lift them up and put them. This particular one you'll see has a point in it, and that is where you set your pear or your apple. I had 3, but one of your stations needed a nice red apple yesterday, so there you go. We generally use 2 or 3 different types of apples because it's prettier, and the kids can then take their own. They can take a half an apple like this counts as 1/2 cup of fruit, this size apple. So 3 wedges would constitute a serving. And my kitchen assistant gal could do all of the apples that we needed. That I have the wrong deal. This is not the apple one. This is for oranges. I'm sorry. This is partially used to it.
It's in the book.
Yeah. If you set it on point, where the stem is, like that, and you get this wonderful wedges. And you can do 200 in less than 30 minutes. But I want to show you a trick that I learned from Chef Cindy Story. She's a lunch lady chef. If you take that same orange and instead of putting it on point, you turn it sideways like this, and then wedge it, then you get wedges that the partitions show, and they're much easier for kids to eat if you cut them on the side. Takes a little bit of muscle, but it works. I'm going to do a couple of lemons. How many of you have, your kids need access to water in your treaty water? Well, we have a dispenser out there that has limes and lemons, and it's kind of fun for the kids to have that same opportunity. So you just wedge a little bit of your fruit, put it in your water dispenser, and it's pretty, and the kids, may like to eat it a little bit better. We had a vegetable prep area like Jay showed us in the other kitchen. And so you had access to water right there. This whole thing can go through the dishwasher. So it's easily clean. It has little suction cups that will hold it onto a countertop or a tray. I like the tray like this.
What is that called?
It's called a food portioner or fruit and veg. We call it a wedger here. You can get different blade cups. I think that's all I need for this. The blade, you unscrew, the sharp part of the blade is here. If you push on the inside, then this big cup comes out like that. And that is washable. You can buy these blade assemblies to dice, make squares. You can buy it to slice. You can buy 8 wedges instead of 6. A total, it comes with one is less than, it's about 200, 250 maybe. And then these are less than 100 for the blade cup. I'm gonna put one in now that I should have used with the apple because it allows for the pour. But this is how easy it is to change the blade. And so this you need to put the uprights because the blade here pushes that core out, and so you end up. But it takes the core out, and this is where you would put it in the Nature Seal is one of the dips. Fruit Fresh is one that they use. It's a granular substance that you mix with water. There are you can use pineapple juice in water, some people use vinegar, but those kinds of solutions will add a taste to your fruit. The Fruit Fresh or the Nature Seal, yes, it has a chemical component, but it's obviously food safe, and they don't leave the taste on the fruit. And you can keep them in a sealed container for up to a week without them browning. So if you don't use all of them, dip them up and chop them up and put them in a fruit basket upset. Or, chop them up and put it in a salad if you don't want to serve the wedge. Or put them in a pre-made salad and put in 3 wedges and you have your half cup of fruit right there. This works for pears. These are the firmer pears. If you get a Bartlett that's pretty ripe, it may turn to mush. But you need to use a little bit of force. The other table that I worked on in Lockwood was a little higher. And then but if you get one like this, it doesn't take much to do this. It's just a handy dandy tool that I think because you all know, if you give children a whole apple, do they eat a whole apple?
Yeah.
First graders, second graders don't have any teeth in the front. They can't bite on a whole apple. Junior high kids have braces. They can't bite on a whole apple. High school kids don't want to get juice all over their face, so they're not gonna eat it. So if you want them to, we need to serve the fruit. If you want them to eat the fruit, make it the best way possible for them to eat. These also, if you're making sack lunches and you have the little snack bags, it's a much more efficient way of getting them fruit than buying the prepackaged apple wedges or the prepackaged grapes. Yeah, there's a little work involved, but it's a better product for the kids. Any questions on the wedgers?
So do you soak the fruit in the fruit stuff before you cut it or after you cut it?
After.
Okay, so
Once the inside is exposed to the air,
so
that's
that's
when you
what-
need to do the pre-browning.
And you said only 30 seconds would be enough time for it to be done to take it out then?
Mhm.
Okay.
I'm going to change back to my other blade here. How many of you work with raw potatoes rather than frozen stuff? Okay. When you have time, I understand that is an issue. You have to be careful not to go that way because it's dangerous. This is the one that takes a little bit more muscle. If you want to make JoJo's or just bake,
Oh, wow.
Oh, goodness.
If you wanted go this far with a wedger and then just chop them in pieces to make roasted vegetables. This is an excellent way of getting your pieces even so they all cook at the same time. So it works for veggies and fruit. If you can see by turning this, you can change the thickness of your slice. This one, if you flip it up where there's this series of blades, you can julienne with it. This is the blade that goes in there. And it has two sides. If you want a straight cut, it looks like the knife was explaining, they're all serrated so it cuts easier. Well, this edge will make a ridge. So if you want to cut cucumbers and have that fancy little ridge, or carrot slices that have a fancy little ridge, this just slides in there like that. And this thing is to
Save your fingers.
save your fingers.
Yes.
I would suggest, I don't know how many of you have a meat slicer, but usually there's a protective glove that you use when you're working with that blade. That same glove would be advisable for a mandolin too. Because if you get down to the nubbin, you're slicing away and, oh, I can do that with my fingers, well, the next slice and your fingernails are gone. Supposedly this little thing can be used to hold it in place, like that. But it's not efficient. Your hands still work the best. So if you choose to go it works wonderful for things on the salad bar. Onions, cucumber slices, but read the instructions first, practice slowly before and don't set a new person to doing that without explaining how this thing works. Jay talked about an immersion blender, and how many of you use these in your kitchens? Wonderful. They fit into your pan. You don't have to move your pan to do something. They work terrific for sauces, for dressings, for gravies, and again, you don't put your fingers under here. In one of former cooking class, we had somebody that hadn't unplugged it, and they were going to. She didn't cut her fingers off, but it was a pretty deep cut. So anything with blades, I guess my message is be careful. This particular one also has a cup where, say you're making 2 cups of dressing or something, you don't want to do a big pan. You can do it in there and then put the lid on. That's what this model of immersion is. But it's inexpensive and a handy tool. Egg slicer, okay? It makes wonderful. How many of you make salads, like a la carte salads, or? Okay. Instead of just giving them a whole egg on the salad or a half, this is so pretty when you just slice it like that. If you want to chop up eggs for an egg salad, you can do it that way. Pick it up, turn it the opposite way, and you have julienne eggs. But if you want to put them into a salad, instead of standing there with your knife and chopping little bits, these things. But beyond eggs, you can do mushrooms. Put the open side up. Mushrooms have it's a thicker peel on the outside, and this will work better if you go around and take that peel off. And that again, if you're putting it on salads, the display is beautiful. And it looks appealing, and maybe it will entice yet another child to try it. If you want to slice mushrooms in another dish, it's a quick and easy way rather than using your knife. This is another thing that can go in the egg slicer. If you turn it upside down, you can leave the peel or the stem on and go part way, not all the way. And then you wanna lay that on top of your salad. Or if you have a big hotel pan and it's sitting out there with fruit salad or a jello or something, and you just wanna make it look nice on the corner that the kids see, just, put a couple of these in the corner. And it looks nice, and then if some lucky child gets the scoop that has the strawberry on it, it's edible. It's edible decorations. So beyond eggs, this is a handy, and it's important this is a KitchenAid, it's important to get a metal one or one that's pretty sturdy, because eggs are soft, but berries and mushrooms have a little more density. And so you could spring the wires on this thing. But again, it's washable, it's less than $20, and it'll hold up in your kitchen. Another thing that the wedger can be used for is kiwi. Now you know that a kiwi is a half cup of serving of fruit. If you cut them in half and serve them with a teaspoon, kids can dig out, but they really don't like to eat the fuzzy stuff. And I don't blame them. So they also work in here. You have to put the stem side to the pivot. Then they can eat it like a wedge. And they can choose their own on a plate, or you can put them in little 2-ounce portion cups. 3 of them would fit in there. So that is yet another fruit that can be used with the wedger. That you're not going to serve kiwis a lot, but it's nice to have this option. Adults would be impressed. If you want to gain some teacher support, you can show them
regularly, not regularly, but 2 to 3 times a year, and they go so quick.
Yeah.
Regardless. So.
Yeah, it's a fruit that kids don't normally probably get at home. And so this would show off your culinary training that you learned about this. Microplane. Rhonda talked about this. But you can use it for zesting, say you have a pan of green beans, and green beans are green beans. If you want to, before you serve them, do a little bit of zest. Don't go any further than the sturdy peel. When you get down to the pith, then it starts tasting funny. But all you need to do is over your pan of green beans is just do a little zest and spiff up your green beans. If you have a frosted pumpkin bar, white frosting, take that orange, I don't have a hole in it anymore, but take the orange and just put a little bit of orange zest on the top of your pumpkin bar. It'll add a zip. The really cool thing is if you have a brownie and you put a little swizzle of white frosting on your brownie, or whipped cream on a cake like strawberry shortcake, take a chocolate bar and just zest a little chocolate over the top of your whipped cream or your white frosting. It's not adding any calories, because how many calories are in a little microplane bit of chocolate? But it looks nice, and your kids would be more enticed to eat it. I don't know if you call it micro, maybe they call it micro, but I call it mini. It's more raised and it tends to grab more. And so yes, then you're going to get your knuckles. But this little one, if you run your finger across it, it doesn't even feel sharp. So again, they're not expensive. You can serve cucumber slices like this, plain old things, or this is a scorer. You can use a fork too, if you do the stripes like this before you slice it. It kind of looks like zebra cucumbers. And a fork will do this too. It'll make the narrower thing. Then when you slice it and put it on a veggie tray, you have, it's just something different. And maybe you only use it for a la carte salads or something, but the other thing you can do with cucumbers, and you can use the wedger, is make sticks, and you can do this with a zucchini too. If you want them to eat zucchini sticks, you can use the wedger for that. And maybe an 8 count, would make it skinnier. You can use, our kids used to love the yellow zucchini sticks because they weren't sure what they were. Or the green, but they'll eat anything that looks cool with ranch dressing.
Right.
So, these are just some of the small tools that are easy to use, easy to clean, and make food much more appealing for students. And it impresses adults that you actually do know something beyond hot dogs and pizza.